Yeah. I ask for the privilege of putting the Devar Torah at this juncture in the service and not afterwards. Just because we're mushy, this is a picture of Ruby and me at our wedding. We were very young. What's not written, I want to first, acknowledge is not the right word, but to be completely touched by both my wife's words and our children's words. Thank you. I also want to say that I remember the moments. I remember them all. Okay. Now what's written. Before my actual remarks, I wish to acknowledge the honor of co-sponsoring the Kiddush this Shabbat with Judy Cowler, as she observed Dan's Yahrzeit. I have the fondest memories of the sweet, gentle man leaning into me with a twinkle in his eyes and a joyful countenance to share some response, insight, or reaction to my sermons. And his memory is a perpetual blessing. First beginning. 56 years ago this August, two people found themselves in a place that neither expected. Ruby did not intend to attend the Metropolitan New York Metney USY encampment held in Camp Ramah in the Berkshires in Wingdale, New York, but did so because her mother prevailed upon her to accompany her younger sister. I was supposed to work at New England Ramah in Palmer, Massachusetts, but my friend finagled my transfer. There was no free agency in Ramah in those days. He finagled to transfer my transfer to the Berkshires Ramah. All that summer, 1970, the director of Connecticut USY lived in my building, but never asked me to work at his encampment until I had already signed on for Metney encampment. And then Ruby was randomly assigned to a different class until her best friend schlepped her into mine. Ruby uses the word beshert, meaning it was meant to be, and I heartily concur. There's a force unseen and unknowable that sometimes makes it all happen. For the past 54 years of our married life, morning, noon, and night, that's been the word of our lives. Second beginning. This fourth, that's why what you said had nothing to do. I also want, before I go, I want to give a yashkoyach. I enjoy learning from colleagues. Thank you. The fourth book of the Torah that we are reading is called Numbers because of its opening section. But it's really about journeying. For it picks up from Mount Sinai in Exodus, and then the people setting out on a journey to the Promised Land. Deuteronomy is entirely located at the end of the trek. They have absolutely no idea, at trek facing Jericho and Eretz Yisrael. When Bnei Yisrael set out from Har Sinai, they have absolutely no idea of what to expect on their journey. What will they encounter? Where will they stop? How long will they stay there? What will it be like to enter Eretz Yisrael? Except for the pillar of fire and the cloud, symbolizing God's presence and his leadership, they have no idea what to expect. We, the readers, know the answers. They did not. I feel a great affinity with the people of this story and its unfolding script. Ruby and I were very young as we began our journeying together. We knew that we loved each other very much, but what does it mean to be married? What would we encounter? Where would we stop? How long would we be there? What would the next place be like? And I add a few more. How many children? How do you raise them? And in particular, since we chose to be observant Jews in a way different from our parents, how does that work with your children? Holding newborn babies, we had the questions and not the answers. And in our wildest imaginations, could not forecast the blessings we would receive. While distinctly different from Bnei Yisrael and Sefer Bamidbar and the difficulties in their journey, like every other person, we have encountered ours. Yet Jeremiah the prophet provides the beautiful retrospective about journeying when he gave God's voice. I remember for thee the affection of thy youth, the love of my espousals, how you wentest after me in the wilderness in a land not sown. Despite everything that happened, all that we read in Bamidbar, God considered the journey with Bnei Yisrael as an extended honeymoon. Ruby and I spent our honeymoon in the rain, but it has been and is, no matter where or what, an extended honeymoon without end ever after. Third beginning. When I began Hebrew school, I took to it like a duck to water. I loved every bit of it, the language, the rituals, the history of it, and junior congregation. I had no explanation for this. We were not an overly observant family. I was told that in my maternal line in Europe, there were shochits and moyals, no rabbis that we knew of. Yet at an early age, I set my sight on being a pulpit rabbi and followed the path of Jewish education that culminated in my ordination from the Jewish Theological Seminary, following 13 years of high school, supplemental high school, college, and rabbinical school there. I remember little of my ordination 50 years ago, except walking down the aisle at Park Avenue Synagogue and seeing my parents and my in-laws and Ruby holding Menachem, 7 months old. It was the beginning of a most fascinating and fulfilling journey. Menachem has edited a second volume of my writings, that's why I'm carrying this, which is called Manifest Decency, Volume 2, in which he chose pieces that are autobiographical, some that really reflect on why I did this and how I have felt. What I cannot put into words is, and Ruby referred to this, is the particular feeling that Ruby and I have to see both Yonina and Menachem follow into the rabbinate, and now the third generation with Ariel beginning full-time rabbinical school at JTS this fall. All this coupled with neshamas studying for the rabbinate at the Academy for Jewish Religion. Words fail to express what it means to me, to us, as I witnessed the sweep of time in our family's history as part of the grand panorama of Jewish history. The trifecta is fulfilled with Tzira making Aliyah and the birth of two Sabras. Who would have thunk it? And she and our sons work in and on behalf of Medinat Yisrael and the Jewish people. Our meeting, our marriage, the journey of being a rabbi, the birth of children and grandchildren, just occurred yesterday in my eye, my mind, and my heart. Yet it has been this long and this blessed. Fourth and last beginning. Some of my closest friends have been Christian clergy. We have been mirror images of each other and have shared the blessings and challenges of our journeys that are so similar. They have taught me much. Jews usually ask me, or about Menachem and Yonina, do you like what you're doing? Are you happy being a rabbi? My Christian colleagues ask me, when did you get the call? I didn't understand the question. I explained how I loved praying, loved hearing Hebrew, loved learning about the journey of Jewish history when I was very young. They smiled and said, you got the call. I needed them to give me the language to understand myself, why I did everything I did, and why the journey with Ruby and the family and with you has been so precious. And I discovered that once you get the call, you never lose it, never relinquish it. Now I understand Moses at the burning bush, which is the seminary's logo and that window, and the prophets like I never did before. Without realizing it, I got the call. 50 years ago, began the journey, and the journey continues. Shabbat Shalom.